Yo, how's it going? In this video, I'll be going over boss by boss tips and tricks to help you improve your DPS and your parses in Unholy DK and Mogu'shan Vaults for MoP Classic. These are tips and tricks I've learned from many hours on beta, private server prep, going over the top logs, and the last few lockouts since the raid released. If you're looking for ways to min-max and improve as an Unholy DK, you're in the right place. If you're new to the channel or you find this guide helpful, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to make sure you don't miss any of my future content for Unholy DK and MoP Classic. We're getting very close to the 1,000 subscriber milestone, and I'd like to express that I'm super grateful for all the support so far. The Stone Guard. For starters, your guild needs to be stacking all 4 of them to really parse here. Stacking them leads to a faster kill than keeping them separated, and faster kills typically help you parse as an Unholy DK. It's also better as melee if you don't have to paint tiles, but that's of course up to your raid leaders and how they decide to accomplish painting. That said, let's talk about 2 options for talents that we can decide between here. The first is choosing to use Rolling Blood. Since the energized tiles offer a stacking 1% damage increase buff for every tile painted on the floor during the encounter, we can constantly refresh our disease snapshot while we spam Blood Boil due to the way the Rolling Blood talent works. And with the way our disease snapshot works, our diseases benefit from any percent damage increasing buffs that are on yourself and not the boss. Now, if you choose to go with Rolling Blood, you do have to be careful you don't reset your snapshot after the power down happens at 75% and 40% transitions. If you had, for example, 150% damage increase just before the power down, so your snapshot had 150% increased damage, and you hit a Blood Boil after the tiles are all reset, you completely erase the snapshot after you use another Blood Boil. So, you can either wait for people to paint more tiles before resuming your AoE rotation with Blood Boil, or you can do what my Newman DK friend Ledsky suggested and cast Army mid-fight while you wait for everyone else to paint the tiles again. Just don't do what I did here when I experimented with this last week and immediately throw 2 Blood Boils after the power down. Pretty unfortunate. The other option would be to run Plague Leech instead of Rolling Blood. You may not necessarily use Plague Leech since you'd lose your snapshot on whichever dog you use it on, but this would save you the trouble of losing a good snapshot if you continue spamming Blood Boils. You would just have to be sure you're occasionally using Pestilence to resnap your diseases as the damage and percent increase goes out with the additional tiles. If you do this, I'd recommend using Pestilence right before the power down and riding out that snapshot for the duration of your diseases, which would be plenty of time before you need to resnap with another Pestilence. By the time this happens, your raid should have painted a bunch by then, and so in my opinion, you can really parse by running either Rolling Blood or Plague Leech, just as long as you execute it well with optimizing your disease snapshots. You can't really go wrong. Another small min-max thing to consider is it's very beneficial to AMS while you're standing in the purple amethyst pools on the ground for more runic power. This will increase your death coil damage and increase your dark transformation uptime, and our ghouls cleave with sweeping claws when they're empowered for more AoE. Feng. Make sure you're using Gara'jal off the rip, so you get a second one later in the fight. Most guilds are lusting on pull, so you should be doing this regardless. Use your AMS when Feng casts his ability Arcane Velocity for loads of runic power. You should be able to get a full runic power bar's worth and then some. When Feng summons the soul fragment adds, don't go crazy and blow these up because they don't count for your parse. The add damage is excluded. What you can do is spread your diseases with Pestilence when they spawn, and then use Plague Leech with this mouse over macro I recommend using just before they die. You can remove your diseases off one of the adds in exchange for 2 free def runes. For this reason, and because you can run the risk of resetting your snapshot on Feng if you're not right next to him if you use the Rolling Blood talent, I recommend sticking to Plague Leech. The adds damage doesn't count anyways, and they don't live long enough to really see much benefit from using Rolling Blood to spread your diseases. When Feng casts Lightning Lash, you can use AMS to gain more runic power. You can also utilize the fire left on the ground from the wildfire sparks for more runic power with AMS. Just be careful with the fire because it can eat through AMS very quickly. Gara'jal. To parse on this boss, you need to try to take advantage of the percent damage increase buff, Spiritual Innovation. Try to convince your raid lead to allow you to go down on the first totem so you can then use a Health Stone and Death Pact to come right back up. You just need to self-heal yourself and use your extra action button to use Return Soul to go back to the surface to receive the percent damage increase. You can then snapshot this damage increase in your diseases, and then maintain this snapshot the rest of the fight by prioritizing Festering Strike higher than you would Scourge Strike. I'd recommend saving your Gargoyle until you return with the buff if you're allowed to do this. But unless you get to go early, It then would be better to use Gargoyle on Pole, so you get a second one later in the fight. Save your Empower Rune Weapon for when you receive this damage buff. Utilize AMS when Gara'jal is casting Shadow Bolt for additional runic power. And if you get the Voodoo Doll debuff, you can use AMS for this for more runic power as well. Don't bother hitting the totems unless you're going down. Damage to these is excluded from your parse. Spirit Kings. Use your Gargoyle on Pole so you can get a second or third one depending on your kill time. I recommend using Plague Leech on Spirit Kings. You should be using it just before Chang puts up his Impervious Shield, since the shield removes your diseases anyways. Might as well get some runes back. When you take Chang down to 30%, Subutai will spawn. Spread your diseases here and try to cleave with Death and Decay. There will be 3 times this happens throughout the fight. Try to maximize disease and Death and Decay uptime during these windows. If you hit Subutai while Sleight of Hand is active and he's not stunned, or you get hit by Pillaged, you can kiss your parse goodbye. You get a debuff from both of these that cuts your damage in half for 30 seconds. When Xian is active, make sure you're using AMS anytime one of the Undying Shadows or skull-looking things are close to you. You get massive amounts of runic power from these, but be careful, they do hurt. When Mang is casting Maddening Shout, please do not spread your diseases to your friends. Friendly fire damage doesn't count towards your parse. You can AMS the damage reflection while he is in Cowardice for additional runic power as well. Elegon. Use Gargoyle on Pole so you get a second one later in the fight. Depending on when your raid is using Lust, if you held Gargoyle for it, you probably won't see a second one unless your kill time is just slow. If your group skips a platform phase and only sees this phase once, this will help you parse a lot. This should be easier as the weeks go on with gear, so if you just greed boss damage a little more before the platform despawns and while the energy charges go out, this should help you accomplish avoiding a second platform phase. I recommend using Rolling Blood here for your talents, and make sure you have the Glyph of Pestilence so your diseases can reach all energy charges when they spawn. Spam a few Blood Boils as the charges are moving out each time they spawn. Energy charge damage currently counts towards your parse. There are tons of opportunities to AMS for additional runic power here. You can use AMS and stand in front of the Celestial Breath. If the ad explodes inside the circle at all, you can also use AMS for runic power there. And then each energy charge explodes when they die, so you can use AMS for runic power there as well. You can also get runic power with AMS from the raid damage ability Unstable Energy in the final phase. Will the Emperor. If you're assigned for mass grips to control the rages, good luck parsing here. You can still do decent, but you're not going to get a 99 if you're losing boss uptime to grip. Use AMS when you're taking ticks of Titan Gas for runic power. Each time the bosses do their devastating combo, if you succeed in avoiding all the strikes and do the dance, you get to cast Opportunistic Strike, which does 1,000,000 damage each time you use this. If you fail to avoid strikes during each dance, this will impact your parse, which is unfortunate because the strikes are still buggy. You might still get hit by one of the strikes even if you execute it perfectly, because their strike is sometimes larger than the projected area it's supposed to hit. So honestly, parsing this fight is kind of a meme anyways, and it's probably going to be removed from all star points here, hopefully. But if you want to parse, hope you're not assigned to grip, and then pray you're able to get all the opportunistic strikes. That covers it for my boss by boss tips and tricks for parsing. Thank you for watching. God bless.